What's going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today we're going to talk about the NFC South quarterback situation on the news of Derek Carr. Go ahead and decide to retire for those New Orleans Aints. We'll also talk about some breakout candidates and potential X factors for this team going into 2025. Definitely gonna get in that. This is a Falcons fan talk Monday, so whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll definitely get into it today. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to this channel. Please hit that notification bell so you're not dropping another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys like hearing I talk about. Then just let me know what you're gonna do. Please share this throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come here and talk about. Guess what? These Atlanta Falcons. So, like I said, guys, first thing we're gonna do today, gonna definitely talk about these NFC South quarterbacks because we got some interesting news this weekend about the New Orleans Saints quarterback situation and Derek Carr. The starter for the New Orleans Saints decided to call it quits, right? He had shoulder injuries, didn't want to go through the rehab, and so he decided to, go ahead and put in his retirement papers, and that's where the New Orleans Saints find themselves at, in a young quarterback room and pretty much with a new head coach, and they're going to pretty much have a quarterback competition. So that's really going to be interesting for the New Orleans Saints. It's going to probably be between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shook, the player out of Louisville that they drafted in the second round, with their pick. So that's going to be interesting quarterback room, to say the least. But, when we're talking about the NFC South, and most people said, if you listen to most of the pundits out there, they're saying the NFC South is a really winnable division because, if you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have, won the last 4 seasons, it's not like they ran away with the division, right? If you think about it, going into the last 2 games of the season, last year, the Atlanta Falcons actually was in the lead. We lost our last 2 games, and they put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back up top. Atlanta Falcons, only lost 2 games in the division last year, but those 2 games was costly. The game to the New Orleans Saints and the game to the Carolina Panthers, both of those games was costly. And the Atlanta Falcons should have won the division last year, but you know, just wasn't in the cards for us, right? They had a plan for a quarterback, and then it didn't pan out, and they probably waited too long to pull the trigger, and probably lost. Cost the Atlanta Falcons lose 6 of the last 8 games. So that's where we stand with the division. But this I agree with most of the people that say that this is a winnable division, and in the end, guys, it's going to come down to the quarterback play, right? And if we look at the last couple of seasons, while the Atlanta Falcons have not been able to get over the hump in the division, because of our quarterback play. I think a lot of people felt like Atlanta Falcons probably had one of the most talented rosters, in the last couple of seasons, but the quarterback play was just not up to par. And you go look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that has been the case for them. Whatever you want to say about Baker Mayfield, he has been, consistent enough to get those guys in position to win the division every year. Then you look at Atlanta Falcons, the inconsistency at the quarterback position. Even last year with Kirk Cousins, we thought we had, solved that issue, and lo and behold, once again, the quarterback was the issue for the team. Definitely the defense as well. That's why you saw what the Atlanta Falcons decided to do this offseason and really invest in the defense. But, if we had better quarterback play last year, the Atlanta Falcons still would have had opportunity to go to the playoffs. And that's where we find ourselves at today. So the quarterback position in this division, in my opinion, of course, throughout the entire league is important, but in particular in this NFC South, the quarterback position is really the key to where we're going to win this division. So you go look around, look at all four teams in the division, and the first thing off the bat when I think about it is who has the best quarterback room, and hands down it is the Atlanta Falcons, right? With the upcoming, hopefully superstar in Michael Penix Jr. But then we got the wily vet in Kirk Cousins, being his backup right now. Yes, I know it's a touchy situation having Kirk Cousins be the backup, but when you look at the quarterback room, it's probably one of the best quarterback rooms in the league, right? Towards starting and backup, depending on how, of course, we believe in Michael Penix and he's going to take that trajectory, you know, forward. That's what we're thinking, right? So if you look at that and you look at Kirk Cousins, how much experience he got, how many things he been able to do throughout his career, I can honestly say the Atlanta Falcons have the best quarterback room in the division. So, when we talk about quarterback play in the NFC South, we start there. We talk about we have the best quarterback room. So, far as starters go, though, right? Go as starters, you have to give the edge to Baker Mayfield. He has the most experience from a starting standpoint. So you will have to get an edge to that. So Atlanta Falcons had the best quarterback room, but right now, based off what we already know, is that Baker Mayfield probably is the best quarterback right now in the division. Stay tuned. We'll see if that's going to stick. But right now, that's where it's at. And like I said, it's based off the career and looking at time on task and looking at what these players have been able to do. Right, you can't give it to Michael Penix. However, probably want to, but he only played 3 games, so I'm not going to live in a a Falcon box right now and be like that. Baker Mayfield is not better than Michael Penix at this point in time. I'm just not going to say that. But like I said, stay tuned and we can be able to change that right now. So they got a better starting quarterback in the division right now is Baker Mayfield. However, I do think second, and I have seen a sample side of Bryce Young, right? Even though he came on towards the end of the season, he still had an up and down last 2 seasons. So I'm going to put the second best quarterback in the division right now is Michael Penix. And could I be being a little biased? Yes, but I don't think I have to, be such, overkill with it because I really believe that Michael Penix is better than Bryce Young. I'm sorry. I really do believe that. So, we give a nod to the Atlanta Falcons, who has the second best quarterback in the division right now. We give the Bucks number 1. We give the Falcons number 2. Rounding out the top, the bottom 2 will be Bryce Young, of course, and then the New Orleans Saints. Because when we talk about quarterback position, those guys really don't know what they got in neither one of those guys. All right, they seen a lot of games from Spencer Rattler last year, and if they was impressed with what they seen for him, they wouldn't have took Tyler Shook. So that's what they think about Spencer Rattler. Tyler Shook, in my opinion, has the upper hand up right now. A guy who's been in the league in college for 6 or 7 years. And we'll see what he pans out to be. Personally, I love the fact that the New Orleans Saints are starting a young guy so we can get after that quarterback when we play those guys. That's what I want to see, right? So looking at what's going on, Joey Chicks, boy. Looking at the division right now. So we got the best quarterback room. Right now, the Bucks got the best quarterback. Stay tuned. We'll see if that changes around, within the season. Michael Penix is second, though, in the division. And then, who has the best quarterback situation, right? So that's a great question when you start thinking about the quarterback situation in the NFC South. So when I look at the quarterback situation, I look at the supporting cast and all that as well, right? So you go to the Bucks, right? Team that won division the last 4 seasons, and you have to give, Baker Mayfield and his supporting cast, a good. You like what you see over there, right? Got Mike Evans. They went and got Ibuka. They already had a couple more receivers there. They had Chris Godwin still there. You like what they was able to do with their running back position. Um, the only downfall for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is another new offensive coordinator, right? So now you're going in again. Of course, Lynn Cohen went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, became the head coach there. So now Baker Mayfield is breaking in a new offense all over again. And some people say that doesn't matter, but it does, because when you look at somebody calling plays and you get in a rhythm and being able to call plays, now you got to do it all again. So Baker Mayfield is going to a situation where he's got a new offensive coordinator, but they might keep the same, offensive concepts there. So might not be as bad as we think, but looking at what Baker Mayfield got, like I said, his weapons are there. You love the players they got supporting, Irvin behind them running the ball. Like I said, Mike Evans. They really got Ibuka. They got Chris Godwin. You love their tight. So they got a pretty good offensive, squad, you know, and supporting cast for Baker Mayfield. So, you know, I can't really hate on them that much. We just got to beat them, and that's what it's all about. Right? You look at the Carolina Panthers supporting cast, right? Still probably some question marks on the offensive line, but they were able to go out and get some more weapons for Bryce Young this year. That when they got, the speedy wide receiver out of Colorado and Jamie Horner Jr. Of course, they went and got Tech McMillan at the number 8 overall pick as well. So they get more weapons for Bryce Young to make him more explosive in his offense. All right, but so that's it's going to be really interesting to see about that. They're still trying to get that running game down. But where I think the best supporting cast for the Carolina Panthers is going to be on the defense side of the ball. I like what they did in the draft. So I like that supporting cast for them. I really do. So that's the supporting cast for the Carolina Panthers. The Aints, I don't like their supporting cast. They only got Alvin Kamara, and they got the little speedy receiver they got. I really don't care about the Aints. I'm be honest with you. I'm just hope they suck. So, and then let's go to the Falcons. Supporting cast, we know what we got. We got the three-headed monster, and Drake, Penix, and Bijan. We got Tyler Algier coming on the back end. Um, I love what Darnell Mooney have been able to bring to the table, along with Ray McLeod, who had a really good season last year, had his career season. But I think the strength of the Atlanta Falcons is their offensive line, that continuity there, going into the second year for Michael Penix is going to be huge. Yes, they do have a new center, but Ryan Newsel played 8 games last year, so he's not as as new as somebody just coming to the team. He has a lot of experience. Most reps he got last year, especially in training camp, was with Michael Penix Jr. So they do have a little chemistry there. What's going on? Kenford Reese? So you like what you're seeing from the supporting cast for the Atlanta Falcons. So when it comes to supporting cast for me, I'm going to say right now that it's close between the Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons with the supporting cast, right? Um, I love what the Atlanta Falcons they would do from the defensive side of the ball, which that's complementary football at its best, being able to play good defense on one end, but then being able to put points up on the other end. So I like the complementary football that Atlanta Falcons was able to create during the offseason. So when we talk about supporting cast, when we talk about the quarterbacks, I'm going to get that to the Falcons. So right now, Falcons up 2-1. We got the best quarterback room. Bucks got the best quarterback right now. And then we got the best quarterback situation and supporting cast. So with all those being said, who do we believe is going to have the better season in NFC South as far as quarterbacks go. And that's going to determine who's going to win this division, right? Like, if you look at the quarterback play throughout this division, the last 4 seasons, that's what it really been boiled down to. The quarterback play. You know, look at Tom Brady, before he left here, then Baker Mayfield being the most consistent quarterback in the division, his time since he been here, and that's why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won this division. That's just that simple. Um, the Atlanta Falcons have so much inconsistent quarterback play since the Terry Fontenot era has begun. Um, to be honest with you, probably the best season they had with Matt Ryan, and that's not saying a lot, but that's the most consistent quarterback play we probably got when Matt Ryan was last year with the Atlanta Falcons. We thought we had something with Kirk Cousins last year, but the last 8 games of the season, was a no bueno. And for him, the last 5 games of the season, because we know Michael Penix came in and played the last 3, but those last 5 games of the season was just so bad for Kirk Cousins, and that's why we did not win the division last year, because we definitely had the upper hand. We had all the momentum going in our direction. Everybody believed that Atlanta Falcons had the deepest roster in the NFC South, but when it comes down to it, the quarterback play is what sealed our doom. So that's where we're at with the quarterback position. But so going into this year's season, who is going to have a better season? And I'm going to be a homer right now, and I say Michael Penix should have the better season. And because I just love what they're doing. I love his growth, that he can go from year 1 to year 2. We always talk about a jump from year 1 to year 2, and this really Michael Penix's first year. So I think sitting behind Kirk Cousins that time gave him a different perspective, how to watch the game, how to be more patient. But he comes in already with his own swagger, his own confidence, his own, calmness that he plays with, and you can already see him being able to do the things he need to do at the quarterback position. So, I just think he's going to have a good season this year. I just got a feeling, and you don't want to get jump the gun too fast, because only played 3 games, but at the same time, in those 3 games, we've seen things that we haven't seen a quarterback in Atlanta Falcons do in a long time. So I have that much confidence to believe he's only going to get better. Some of the mistakes that we see him make last year, he's not going to be able to do it. I mean, if you go back to the Commander game, that first half, he missed some throws in that game, but you can see him start to get the chemistry with his team, especially you go to the last game with the Carolina Panthers. Those guys were clicking on all cylinders, and that's where we saw the career years from all 3 of those guys, and Bijan, Mike, and Drake. So that's what I feel like. I think the Atlanta Falcons quarterback situation overall, if you're tallying up the score, when you're looking at the best quarterback room, definitely Atlanta Falcons. The best quarterback right now, before we play it in the game, is going to get at the Tampa. The best situation is going to Atlanta Falcons, and then who's going to deliver the goods to end the season. And right now, I got Michael Penix Jr. delivering the goods. All right, so definitely interested in hearing you guys on my take on the quarterback situation in NFC South. Like I said, I'm not gonna really talk about the Aints that much, because I don't care what they do. I think it's hilarious that they're they don't have a sure thing at quarterback. They're going to go with Tyler Shook or Spencer Rattler, and all I know is when we play those guys, we better eat. That's all I'm saying. We need to eat them up, man. They probably gonna want to try to run the ball, because you don't want to just start to air the ball out with your young quarterbacks. But Kellen Moore, maybe that's what he tried to do. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I can't wait. We all know the schedule coming out here on Wednesday. I wonder who's gonna be our first opponent. Um, let's hope it the Aints, man. Let's just hope it the Aints. That'll be freaking something to behold if we playing the Aints the first game of the season, going up against the rookie quarterback and Tyler Shook. So um, that's definitely going to be something to behold. Kinfo Reese said he loved our draft. How you feel? I love it. The draft was just simply amazing. Like I said, I gave him an A. Um, they addressed all the needs and the value for each guy that they got. It was really good as well. So you can only, and then you combine that with what they did on the offseason, bringing in the veteran free agents. I just like the moves that they made overall, and I believe the defense had potential to be a whole lot better this year. So that's my thoughts on the draft. What's going on, T Terry? All right, guys. But there you go, guys. Real quick, come in. Derek Carr decided to retire, shakes up the whole quarterback situation in New Orleans. Um, and it's time for the Atlanta Falcons to take their rightful spot in the division. And it's all going to come down to the quarterback play. That's what it's going to come down to. T. Terry said MPG is getting much pressure to play well, but acts like he comes in like as a cucumber. Yeah, man. You know what? The pressure's on Mike. It is. It is 100% on him because everybody expects this offense to deliver the goods, right? Deliver the goods. And what we're talking about is a guy just playing his going to start his fourth game here to start the season, and right, all the pressure is going to be on him. But one thing about this new kind of generation of quarterbacks that's coming in, a lot of these guys played a lot of college football. So you look at what Michael Penix did, he played a lot of college football, right? You look at a guy like Jaden Daniels played a lot of college football. You look at a guy like Bo Nix, played a lot of football. Even the young man down in New Orleans, Tyler Shook, he played a lot of football, right? Now sometimes that does not translate. You look at where Desmond Ritter played 4 seasons in Cincinnati. And all the football he played did not translate to what we wanted to see. Too many turnovers. Was too careless with the ball. Didn't know what he need to do. Look at Mr. Irrelevant himself out in San Francisco, but played a lot of football, comes in and delivered the goods. And you got guys like Trey Lance, right? Played, didn't play a lot, starting quarterback, and then we see the troubles he's having, right? You see a guy like Anthony Richardson, didn't play a lot of football, came out and still needs some developing. So the difference between, a guy like a Michael Penix, a guy like a Jaden Daniels, a guy like a Bo Nix, guys that played a lot of football, got a lot of snaps, because at the end of the day, that's what it really boils down to, being able to have, reps, being able to get your mechanics, your fundamentals down, being able to have that comfortability, even though the college game from the NFL game is different, but just having the ability to step back and throw a lot of footballs through your career. And that's what we've seen for guys. So Michael Penix, yes, he's going into his fourth game ever to start the season, but you love his poise. You love the command he already has on the offense. And, this offseason is where he needs to take his biggest step, right? Getting the chemistry down with his players, getting really, really good with the playbook so he know where he's going with the ball. And then just let the overall guard get the talent that he has should shine and pay dividends. That's what we want to see from Michael Penix. And that's why, for me, I got him having the better season out of all the quarterbacks in the division, because what I believe his growth is going to be from what we've seen for him in just those 3 games to potentially how explosive and dynamic he can be going into his second season. So there we go, talking about the quarterbacks. So guys, let me know what you think about the quarterbacks in the NFC South, and where do you see the Atlanta Falcon quarterback falling amongst all the other quarterbacks in the division. All right, guys, let's get to some good stuff now. So breakout season is on the way, and definitely, when we're talking about breakout candidates for this season, who do we see that potentially could have a breakout season um, for the Atlanta Falcons this year? So I'm gonna go with three guys for breakout candidates, and it might not be guys that you think, but if these guys, could really hone in and do well, I think he's going to pay some really good dividends for the Atlanta Falcons. So the first guy is Rukororo, right? And it's by necessity in the way I pick him because he's replacing Grady Jarrett, right? He was a second round pick. The Atlanta Falcons moved up to go get him. So he's a guy, in my opinion, that needs to have a breakout season. It just I can see it coming. We've seen flashes. First of all, he needs to stay healthy, right, where he can participate in the entire training camp. As that starter, being able to do things that he needs to do. But one reason I believe that Rook is going to be able to break out the way I feel because of the type of defense they're going to be playing when he's going to be responsible for that one gap, and he's going to be attack mode getting up the field. If you go back and look at some of the things Rook was able to do in college, I think that fits his game a little bit better than some of the things he was doing last season. So I like the change in the coaching staff, bringing in a new defensive coordinator and Jeff Ulbrich, bringing in Nate Ali as well. And so looking at both of those guys, and seeing what we can get out of Rukororo breakout, I think is going to pay off for him. And for one reason, it has to, because he's replacing, Mr. Atlanta himself, Grady Jarrett. But I believe, getting into the style of defense that we're going to be playing, attacking, getting upfield, I think it suits his game a lot. And um, I think he's going to play really well for us this year. So my first breakout candidate for this year is going to be Rukororo. I just believe that he has to be, somebody that's going to do the thing he need to do, play some Grady, and I think the defense suits him really well, and he can really wreak some havoc, attacking, attacking the interior offensive line of his opponents this year. So that's what I like to see. Um, T. Terry says Zach Harrison will have a breakout season. Yes, I started to pick him as one of my guys, but I agree with you, Zach Harrison. Um, as another guy that needs to have a really good season as well. Um, it sounds like they're gonna move him back towards the end, right? Instead of and this will happen when you get new coaching staff, right? They wanted him to put on pounds last year so he can move inside a little bit more. This year they want him to go back on the outside, where he played his first year under Ryan Nielsen. And we saw him start to come on towards the end of the season. We saw those flashes of what Zach Harrison potentially be. It's a big guy. He was being molded by Calais Campbell, right? Another big guy. And we just got to see, pay dividends. So I agree. Zach Harrison could definitely have a breakout season for the Atlanta Falcons. My next guy, and he already had a good season last year, but I believe with the addition of the players that Atlanta Falcons brought in during the offseason with free agency and draft, I think he's primed to have either bigger season, and that's Caden Ellis. I believe Caden Ellis, he's just scratching the surface of, what he's able to do, especially getting after the quarterback. He led the team in pressures last year, but I believe bringing in James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker, and then also bringing in Leonard Floyd as well, is going to make Caden Ellis even be better this season. I just believe that because it does not take away from what he was already able to do, right? And then because he was getting the most pressures out of everybody on the team, now you add three more potentially, dogs to that pass rush. I believe Caden Ellis could really have a breakout season. We looking at the young guys and want them to have those seasons, but those guys going to wreak havoc, but somebody going to have to block somebody. And the way Caden Ellis was already getting after the quarterback last year, I believe him, you know, his ability to even have more space now because of the other guys that brought into the table. And I don't forget about Braylon Trice as well, because Braylon Trice is another guy they can bring in that we showed some flashes before he went down last season as well. So those four guys coming in, a Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., a Leonard Floyd, a Braylon Trice coming in, I think it's all going to help Caden Ellis out, and he could be even more, explosive this year, getting after the quarterback, being all over the field than he was last year. So, like I said, easy pickings because he already had a really good season last year, but I believe he can be even better this year because of the additions the Atlanta Falcons were able to do on the defensive side of the ball. So you're looking at a guy like Ruker Ororo, who we really need to do what he needs to get on the field, right? Just the second season. Didn't play a lot last year, and it's understandable because he's playing behind Grady, right? But he's going to be the man this year. He's the one that's going to have to set the table for the Atlanta Falcons. So Rook, and then like I said, Caden Ellis needs to have a really, really good season for us, and that's one of the main guys that hopefully we can see do something real good, right? And then the third guy, we're going to say Brandon Dorless. Brandon Dorless is another guy. And, only thing we can say about Brandon Dorless is only expectation we got is just to make some plays, because we really didn't get to see anything from Brandon Dorless last year. It's just that simple. Atlanta Falcons had a lot of had a deep defensive line room, and a lot of veterans on that team. So Brandon Dorless got a lot of, he was inactive a lot of games last season because of that. And so I really believe that Brandon Dorless, him and Rook, right? And you want to see your draft picks and the whole old cliche running from year one to year two, but those guys really didn't have opportunity to get a jump, right? Because they didn't play a whole lot. So these is where these two guys, and listen to Nate Ali talking about he's going to put Zach Harrison and Brandon Dorless on being big ends, going to get the ball. If you go back and look at the tape from Oregon and what Brandon Dorless was doing, that's exactly where he played some really good football. And, he had some pass rush in him, right? A lot of people believe, he's just going to be a run stopper, but no, Brandon Dorless had a lot of little pass rush in him. So I like, him moving out to the end, going up against tight ends and things like that. So it's going to be really exciting to see those two guys, those second-year guys, and Brandon Dorless and Ruker Ororo really start to pay dividends. Did not get to see a lot of those guys last year. Can't say it's a bad draft pick or whatever, because we did not get to see those guys play. Hopefully this year is the year, we start to see the youth start to take hold of this defense and start to bring the pain, man. So that's what we like to see. So those are my three guys that I really believe could have a breakout year. Two, just because they didn't get opportunity, right? They just did not get opportunity to show what they was able to do. But this year is the year, and they need to be good. They need to have breakout seasons, and that's Brandon Dorless and Ruker Ororo. So I think it's going to be huge for both of those guys to go into a season knowing that they're going to, be active most of the year and being able to contribute. And you can't ask for nothing else. But both of those guys definitely going to have a breakout. And then, like I said, Caden Ellis, I think because of the additions of, the other defensive players that was brought in, I think it's going to open up his game even more and him to be more explosive and dynamic. So those are my three breakout candidates. We got to come in here from T. Terry. Recounting the Falcons just got Ellis replacement in Walker, but it don't mean they both can do it. You're right. Walker does the same thing, but you don't want to take away from the more the merrier, right? So I don't want to, it's not like you got Walker and like, okay, Ellis, you don't have to do what you know. Ellis, you do what you did last year, and Walker, you do what you do. Why both of them can't eat, man? Like we want to see both of those guys be really good next year. So I agree. They got what he did last year. Walker can do that, but why both of them can't do it? That's the point I'm making. We put one on one side, one on the other side. Let's both of them go to the quarterback. That's what I want to see. So I'm tracking what you're saying. They got his replacement, but we want to see both of them eat. That's why I picked him as a breakout candidate, because I expect Jalen Walker to do what he do, and then that means that open up more for Caden Ellis as well. So those are my breakout candidates this year. Rook Rororo, Brendan Dorless, and Caden Ellis. All right, guys, let's get into some X factors, right? Because this right here, and when I say X factors, these are the guys, in my opinion, if they deliver, the Atlanta Falcons is going to have a really, really, really good season. And so these are my X factors right here, right? Of course, the low hanging fruit, Kyle Pitts, right? He's going to be first, right? He is my X factor. Yes. And I'm not saying he's going to have a breakout season. That's why he wasn't a breakout candidate. I'm saying he's the X factor, because if he can deliver like he did, or even close to what he did his first season as a rookie, the Atlanta Falcons is going to be really good. I'm just telling you right now. That's why Kyle Pitts is the X factor. He has all the incentives to be that too, right? He's going into his final year of his contract, right? And it's not just to stay with the Falcons, it's to get a good contract with another team as well, right? This is his contract year. So you playing for your football mortality here, trying to get to that second contract. So this is where Kyle Pitts, in my opinion, need to deliver the goods, right? I'm not calling him a breakout player. I'm calling him an X factor, because if he plays well, the Atlanta Falcons is going to be really, really good. It's just that simple, right? We got to see more consistency out of Kyle. He got to get his opportunities. I definitely believe that. But I believe, the way Michael Penix is able to throw the ball, I think you can utilize Kyle Pitts' athletic ability being getting at those seams, right? Those seams route that we seen Kirk Cousins throw him last year, that could be every week kind of thing, because he's going to have mismatches, especially at the tight end position. He's going to have mismatches. This is a guy who was burning cornerbacks in his first year. You go back and watch that Miami game, Kyle Pitts rookie year, and look at how he torched cornerbacks, not safeties, not linebackers. I mean cornerbacks, guys, some of the most athletic guys on the field. And talking about a cornerback, and Kyle Pitts was putting it on them, right? That's what we need to see. We need to see that kind of production, right? He's not gonna get all the touches, right? We get it, right? Because he's probably at best fourth in the progression now, and that's fine. But if he can have a great season, he's going to be considered an X factor, and I think he can actually do the thing. So that's why Kyle Pitts is one of my X factors going into year 2025. He's not a breakout candidate, because I'm not saying he's going to have a breakout year, because I don't know how Zach Robinson is going to use him in the offense. So not saying that, but what I'm saying is that he can definitely be X factor, and if he put it on like we think he can, the Atlanta Falcons got a chance to be really, really, really good in 2025. My next X factor is Armor Ebiketie, right? Armor Ebiketie, another guy that's going to his contract year. And guess what? We don't even need Armor Ebiketie no more, because we got our new horses in the stable, right? So that's why he's my X factor, because if he can improve and be better, right? That's just adding fuel to the fire. That's adding more competition to the room. If Armor Ebiketie can come out, and start to get over the 5.5 sacks that he been mulling around his whole career here in Atlanta, right? That's going to be really good for the Atlanta Falcons, because now we got a guy who's been consistent for the last 5 seasons with at least 8 sacks, and Leonard Floyd, right? We got 2 guys that we think is going to be straight out dogs, and Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. We got both of those guys, right? If Armour Ebiketie, comes out in his contract year, right, and start delivering the goods, the Atlanta Falcons can really be good, because I believe those other guys are going to be good. So, what I'm saying is Armour Ebiketie is now you just hopefully like, okay, if he don't play well, we got his replacements on already on standby. But if he can play well and the young guys can play well along with him, that's what I'm talking about. So Armour Ebiketie, if he could do better, I mean, if he can do what he did the last 5 weeks to start this season, right, and then you bring those other guys along with it, man, Atlanta Falcons the opportunity to be one of the best, going from being 31st in pass, pass rush, to being in the top 10. I'm just telling you, they have the potential maybe to be that way. These guys got to show up and they got to do it. But Armour Ebiketie is one of my X factor, because we feel like we don't need him no more, right? He's like the forgotten man now in the pass rush room, because we got 2 young studs. We got Leonard Floyd. Armour Ebiketie, like, what about me? Well, if you want people to talk about you, you want to get that second contract with the Falcons or anybody else, you have to deliver the goods this year, right? So another guy that's in the contract year, and I'm going with all these guys in contract years, right? Because we want to see them deliver, and if they do, imagine how good the Atlanta Falcons, could be. Because right now we're not expecting those guys. We're like, okay, we already got somebody to come in and fill that void that you was not able to do over your first couple of years. In Armour Ebiketie's case, the last 3 years here with the Atlanta Falcons, right? Did decide to come on towards the end of the season. We want to see that from the jump, and have a great season for this team, right? So Armour Ebiketie is considered an X factor. Then the last guy that I believe is going to be an X factor for the Atlanta Falcons this year is Troy Anderson, right? I mean, the guy that has flashed so many games for the Atlanta Falcons, with his athletic ability, his speed, his rawness, right? Because he's still probably raw at the linebacker position, but still makes so many plays. You look at the pick 6 that he got last year, the block punt that he got his first season, the way he was able to knock Justin Fields out of the game. I mean, Troy Anderson has made so many plays. The only problem is he can't stay healthy. So, with the different roles they might have Caden Ellison this year, because what I talked about him having a breakout year, right? If you can get a guy like Troy Anderson to stay on the field, first of all, right? Availability is the best ability if you can stay on the field. So if we can get Troy Anderson to start this, to actually stay on the freaking field, that would be great, right? That's one of the things. But the reason why I like why I want Troy Anderson to be the X factor, right? First of all, and you see it's a theme here, right? He's in the contract year as well. So another guy that's in the contract year, Troy Anderson. But what I like about Troy Anderson and what I like about his defense in his whole is the speed, guys. The speed on this defense is really, really, really good. I mean, the guy they brought in, Divine Diablo, right? Speed. Troy Anderson, speed. Jalen Walker, speed. James Pierce Jr., speed. Billy Bowman, speed. Right? AJ Terrell, speed. Right? JC Bates, speed with the intelligence to do his thing. Right? Mike Hughes, speed. A guy who's return kicks, speed. Right? This is a fast defense. Right? Then you got the young defensive tackles, Ruko Aurora, young speed, Brandon Doherty, speed, Braylon Trice, speed. You see what I'm saying? A relentlessness. It's a fast team, right? When we worried about guys, quarterbacks getting out with all this speed on it, we're not. I'm not worried about quarterbacks no more. I'm really not, man. They run out, they want to. They run out, they want to. We got speed on this team, and I love that. I really love that. But Troy Anderson has that rare speed. We talking about a guy who ran 4.4, big linebacker, 250 pounds, 6'2". This guy, if he can stay healthy, he's still raw, right? And that's one thing we know about it because he played so many positions in college. So, but he's an athlete. We know this, but he can't stay healthy. But I believe he could be an X factor for the Atlanta Falcons. So, and he's going to his contract year. So I'm looking at these guys, those three guys, looking at a Kyle Pitts, right? Deliver the goods. Army Katie, you're afterthought now because we brought in two more bookends. Deliver the goods, right? X Factor, Troy Anderson, X Factor. Those guys play to their potential, right? Guys play to their potential. The Atlanta Falcons can really, really be good. I just laying it out there. So with my three breakout candidates in Rook, Brandon, and Caden, and then our X Factors in Kyle, Troy, and Arnold Ebiketie, if all those guys play well, and I didn't even talk about guys that we know gonna play really good, like Jesse Bates, like AJ Terrell, right? I didn't talk about those guys. I didn't say anything about that. What we think James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker is going to do, what we think Leonard Floyd is going to bring to the table. A guy like Morgan Fox coming in with that veteran experience he got. David Amenyada, right? Contavious Street is somebody that I think was an underrated signing for the Atlanta Falcons. So all these guys that I'm talking about, right, coming in that I use for breakout candidates and X Factors, I didn't even add those other guys in because I believe they're already going to play well. So I'm talking about these guys, if they play to their potential, the Atlanta Falcons have opportunity to be special, right? And maybe we're 2 years behind the schedule because of the quarterback situation, but if these guys start to deliver, Terry Fontenot could really start to look like a pretty good GM, right? With the moves he have made. And that's what we're hoping for this year. But guys, those are my X factors: Kyle Pitts, Army Ebiketie, Troy Anderson. That's what I want to see. They have great season, guys. The Atlanta Falcons, because we know we're going to get good season out of Bijan. We know we're going to get good season out of Drake. We think, Mooney, Darnell Mooney is going to do his thing, right? We know that we can depend on the offensive line, right? Like I said, we can depend on AJ. We can depend on Jesse. We know how solid Mike Hughes was last year for us. That's why they brought him back, right? But if those other guys that I mentioned can deliver the goods, man, the Atlanta Falcons got an opportunity to be really good this year, right? And that's only if they can do it. T. Terry said James Pierce Jr. looks bigger than 245. He looks 265 and fast off the edge like Lawrence Taylor. He could be LT soon. JBG looks just like a young. Hey, look, man. All I can say is I can't wait to see the young man play. Like, this is one of the years, guys, where when we was coming in the off season, I had no expectations for the team because I knew how young we was going to be on the defense side of the ball. I knew we were going into the season with a quarterback, who only had had 3 starts in his career. But I am a guy who would look at things glass half full. So when I look at this team, I'm really getting excited. I love what the Atlanta Falcons did during the offseason. Now it's time to just put it all together. But guess what? That's why you have to love the NFL, because I can promise you, a lot of teams around the league feel just like we feel about their teams, right? Maybe not the New Orleans Aints. Maybe they don't feel this way, right? That's probably the only team that probably don't feel optimism, right, going into the new season. But everybody else probably feel the same way we feel, right? You look at the Cowboys, they probably over the moon. I haven't talked to any Cowboy fans yet, but I'm pretty sure when I do, they're gonna say we're going to the Super Bowl, right? We're going to Super Bowl, right? So we're gonna get that from those guys. The Commanders, the season they had, they feeling good, right? The Eagles won the Super Bowl, they're looking good. San Francisco, they really to retool. They probably feeling good about their season coming up. The Los Angeles Rams, they probably say if it wasn't snowing, they probably would have been the Eagles. They would have been the Super Bowl. So they're feeling good about where their situation. The Green Bay Packers, right? All that young talent they got over there, they probably feeling good about their situation. The Detroit Lions, right? Even though they lost both of their coordinators, I'm pretty sure they're like, we won a lot of games last year. Same thing can be said about the Minnesota Vikings, even though their quarterback situation a little bit in flux. But based on what I'm saying, guys, this time of the year, if you're not feeling, you know, optimistic about your team, you know, you didn't do a good job during the offseason. I'm just being honest with you. And like I said, only team that probably can say that is the New Orleans Aints. Um, they probably not feeling good about their situation right now, but every other team around the league feels the way we feel right now. So I'm saying that to say we got to let it play out, right? I have no expectations right now, right? I believe the Atlanta Falcons got an opportunity to be good, but I'm just holding my expectations till later on because I need to see it, right? I got to see it. Darmar said, would you personally let Jalen Walker keep number 11 jersey? So let's talk about this. I'm glad you asked that question. So I don't really I don't really have a feeling about it. To be honest with you, the whole retired jersey thing. Um, I mean because the great players always play right for teams, and I kind of like I think I listened to Smitty or Speedy Sports Machine what he had to say, and I kind of agree with him to a point, right? So you look at the Dallas Cowboys, right, and the number 88, right? It's prestige, right? Every receiver that come to Dallas, they put on that number 88, right? They put it on, and it's for a talented guy to come in to wear the mantle of 88, right? You look at Bijan, right? When he came in, he wanted number 7. He called Mike. He got number 7, right? Because you're going to make that number 7, you know, really do something. You know who had number 7 before Bijan had it? Young Wei Koo had number 7. I don't remember nobody, making up an uproar because Young Wei Koo had number 7, right? We know what number 7 stands for. That's in my opinion. If you've been Atlanta Falcons fan for so long, to be honest with you, that's when the Atlanta Falcons really start to be more consistent after Mike got there, right? And go back to the 98, Super Bowl. That's before Mike. You go back to, the primetime years with Jerry Glanville. Yes, I get it, right? But really, when Atlanta Falcons really start to turn things around as a franchise, is when Mike got there, right? So the 7 means something, but the 7 been worn. Young Wei Koo had number 7 before Bijan got it. Now I think it's in the right spot. When you think of number 7, how explosive can be, dynamic can be, that number 7 is gonna be able to do something, right? We all know how great Julio Jones was, right? And we know that he's in my opinion, I don't think they should hesitate. I think they need to do the same thing they did with Matt Ryan once he retired. Julio decided to retire. Julio need to go in the Ring of Honor. That's how the Atlanta Falcons, you know, award their legends. They put him in the Ring of Honor. That's where Julio needs to go. The jersey thing for the Atlanta Falcons, because they never retired jersey, right? It's a couple of guys that they haven't let somebody wear yet. Unspoken. You know, Tommy Nobis, those guys. It's the unspoken. Some of those guys jerseys have not been, but it's not like they retired those jerseys. It's just not, right? It's gonna be interesting. Somebody get number 2, right? Matty Ice, right? We're gonna see how long they let that number, not get worn, right? And because in my opinion, he's the greatest Falcon of all time, right? So we'll see how long that be on, and you can say Julio probably right behind him. I'm with you on that, but Julio needs to go in the Ring of Honor, guys. That's how we honor him and his career here with the Atlanta Falcons. And don't get so wrapped up about another player wearing the number on the field, because I can feel this way. Like when I see 21, right? I see prime time with the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Trufant had 21 for a long time, right? So I just, and I know, Prime didn't play here his whole career, but I'm just saying, you know, some numbers, some teams just don't retire numbers, and that's okay. But you put them in the Ring of Honor, and their name going to be, solidified up there forever. That's what I'm talking about. So I don't feel any type of way by. I wasn't upset when they gave Jalen Walker number 11, right? I could understand Abdul Carter trying to get number 56, and I was like, that ain't happening. That and because you have to put some perspective in this. Lawrence Taylor, we talking about Lawrence Taylor. Abdul Carter went getting that one, and he won the number 11, right? And we know why the number 11, right? Because the tradition of the Penn State linebackers, wearing number 11, start with LeVar Everton, right? You look at Michael Parsons, that's why he won 11, but he couldn't even get number 11 as well. So you get it. I understand. Some teams retire jerseys, some teams doesn't. But for the Atlanta Falcons, since they never retired jersey in the first place, I I, I don't feel any way about it, guys. I'm just being honest with you. I think Julio needs to go into the Hall of Fame. I mean, in the Ring of Honor this year, though. I do believe he need to go in the Ring of Honor this year. That's where I stand with it. Matt Ryan retired that same year they put him in Ring of Honor. I think the same need to be done for Julio Jones. And I know he's not a talker or anything like that, and he's not going to do a lot of press, but Julio needs to be in the Ring of Honor, and it needs to happen this year. Matter of fact, they need to bring Julio in and sign him to a one-day contract so he can retire as Atlanta Falcon. That needs to happen as well. So that's what we need to see, and I think we'll be good with it. But the Atlanta Falcons never retired jerseys, so people making the big hoopla about it, and I get it. He just retired, and Jalen Walker get his number, but the kid been wearing his number since he's been in high school. So it's not like he came in and he was like, I want number 11. No, that's his number. That's the number he's been wearing, man. And we hope he can be just as great as Julio was in the number. So that's how I feel about it. They interviewed Vic on a podcast, and he that Terry him and B John wanted 7. He met B John to see B John running the ball and feels like that's him running the ball. Yeah, man. Like I said, we talking about number 7, right? Like I said, they let Younghoe Koo get number 7, man. Like Atlanta Falcons, that just let you know when Atlanta Falcons think about retiring numbers, because they let a kicker get number 7 before Bijan had it. So I mean, I'm just keeping it real with you, and so if that's not insulting, I don't know what is, right? They let the kicker get number 7, so Younghoe Koo was happy to get a number to Bijan, right? I think he wanted number 5 though, right? Because that's the number he wore in college. But we know who number 5 is. He wasn't getting that number. So Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Like I said, a lot of people because everybody made a big deal about the whole jersey thing, and I get it. He's Julio, man. Julio, one of the best factors to play the game. He's on my Mount Rushmore of receivers. He really is. He's just that good. Julio was a straight up beast. I mean, that size, that big, that fast, ran every route on the route tree, right? Didn't get that many touchdowns as he should have probably got. Right? I don't know if that because him and Matt couldn't get on same page in the red zone, but anyway, Julio is on my Mount Rushmore, man. He was that dude, right? So that's why I believe he needs to go in the Ring of Honor, and I think he needs to do it this year. And I think, like I said, they need to sign him to a one-day contract before he can retire as well. That needs to happen this year. I don't know the relationship between the Atlanta Falcons and Julio Jones. Because the way the split happened, went on public TV and why he out of there and all that stuff. So I don't know, but they need to make it happen, man. They really do. They really do. Right? He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, hands down. I don't know. Got to wait 5 years. That's the way the NFL works. Got to wait 5 years to get in. But when his name comes up, he should be first ballot. And right, and Julio should have the best catch in the Super Bowl ever. Right? They won't ever talk about it because the Atlanta Falcons blew the game and lost. But that was one of the best catches I ever had. And I mean, first of all, the gumption of Matt Ryan to throw the ball because he was not open. But the ability for Julio to go get it and then to get both feet in was just simply amazing, man. Simply amazing. And we lost that game. It's sad to think about it because this would have put those guys on the map. Julio had the greatest catch in Super Bowl history. Matt Ryan would have had Super Bowl MVP. That's how good he was playing in that game. He would have Super Bowl MVP. Julio would have had the greatest catch in Super Bowl history. But it all goes for none because they blew the game. So those guys would have. I mean, Matt's NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP. He's first ballot Hall of Famer right there. Now people questioning his Hall of Fame status because he couldn't get it done. So, but if that stood, that catch, that throw, and the Atlanta Falcons win, both of those guys get first ballot Hall of Fames right off the bat. So it's crazy how one game changed the trajectory of how people see your career. And that's crazy. I don't know if first ballot. You talking about Julio? Yeah, man. Like, the reason I say Julio, before he left Atlanta, he had the most receiving yards per game average in NFL history. That's before he left Atlanta, right? 10 seasons. Played 10 seasons in Atlanta. He averaged 98 yards a game. That was most by anybody else. All the receivers ever to play the game. That's where he left. Now, of course, the average went down. If you go look at his average now, it's not that high because he went to other teams and he was still not that dynamic. I say he didn't have Matty Ice. That's what I believe. But he wasn't the first option anymore at those other teams. So his career went downhill after that. But that's the reason why I put him up there because if you look at that 10-year span, when he was in Atlanta, that's why I say he first ballot. That's why. Now, to your point, T. Terry, when I say first ballot, because you have to look at the receivers out there, and I know there's a lot of receivers out there. Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, some of those guys, still haven't got in, right? So it's some great receivers out there still haven't got in, but Julio was a freak of nature, man. I mean, Calvin Johnson got in, only played 7 seasons. So And you put Calvin Johnson numbers up there with Julio, they're close. They're close, man. So that's why I say that. Say Vic said he hoped his son grows up to be like Bijan as a man. Yeah, Bijan, man. What can you say about that kid? That kid is is the model citizen. And people wonder why the Atlanta Falcons went with Bijan Robinson instead of Jalen Carter. You know, I know that debate probably goes down in history who has the better career overall, but you know, the Atlanta Falcons believe in character, even though they was going to bring Deshaun Watson in at one point. We kind of forget that. So, and I think that was an Arthur Blank call all the way. But when you talk about character, and not saying anything about Deshaun Watson guilt or anything like that, but character speaks a lot, right? Um, so their hands not clean in this either because they was going to bring them in. So just putting it out there. But guys, there you have it. I'm glad you guys asked me about number 11. I want to talk about that. I'm glad I had an opportunity to talk about that today. Um, and I'm glad I got to talk about the NFC South quarterbacks as well, and where I believe the Atlanta Falcons quarterback situation at the end of 2025 is going to be the best out of all the teams in NFC South. I believe my breakout players, if they able to deliver, and that's Luke Roro, Brandon Dorlins, Caden Ellis, they can do the things they do. We're gonna see some breakout season for those guys. Then my X factors, if these three guys decide to show out this year, the Atlanta Falcons are going to definitely be good. Kyle Pitts, Armor Ebiketie, and Troy Anderson. All three guys, they can live up to their potential. Atlanta Falcons can really have a really good season this year. And there you have it, guys. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.